Welcome to a Trekzone Conversation, the podcast where we dive into science fiction and Star Trek fan films. It's the final installment of 2021. It's time for a clip show and a countdown of some of our guests from the year in absolutely no particular order.
This is a Trekzone Conversation.
Now, we first met in 2016 at the premiere of Red Billabong. Now, that was a fantastic film involving a really cool storyline, and it was fantastically directed and acted. Obviously, such a long time ago now, 4 years. 2020 just ruined it for everybody. But you've now come up with a sequel to another film, Occupation. This one's called Occupation Rainfall. What's happening?
What's happening? Okay, so Occupation 1 came out in 2018 in Australia. So very limited release. But luckily for us, it got on Netflix America, and it launched at number 1 on Netflix the week it came out over there in America, and then Netflix Australia picked it up. So we're able to get a whole lot of fans and people watching the show from the Netflix release. But even before the movie got released, we announced that there was going to be a sequel, and it was my intention to sort of show that Australia can do a sort of sci-fi series. We got to work straight away on that, and my intention was to make it, even bigger than I could possibly imagine, and what I could do, and what Australia thinks that they could do in a sort of genre film like this.
And Ben is on the line now for me. Ben, thanks for beaming in and having a Trekzone Conversation.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Now, you're working with Eagle Moss on the Starship designs, on these Starship models, and so much more. What's the inspiration been for you to create these models?
Oh, my God.
Such a loaded question to start off.
It's like, I know. It's like, what's your reason for living? What do you do? Well, I mean, we make collectibles. I always have done. So when I started working in this business, oh my God, 24 years ago, on Star Trek, funnily enough. And we've done lots of different collectibles, so lots of figurines, die-cast car collections, build-up cars, all that kind of stuff. And we had looked at doing a Star Trek figurine collection, little statues, and that didn't really work. It was mostly my fault, I think. I didn't do a brilliant job. But as we were doing that, we realized that what people really wanted was ships. And I also realized that I wouldn't say you can't get a ship wrong, but you can get a ship absolutely right, because it's always the same. I mean, it turns out to be a bit more complicated than that, but it's basically always the same. And I knew where to get the original visual effects models from, the CG ones, and we were able to literally use those to make our models. So it seemed like we couldn't screw it up too much.
Supernova's back. It's Supernova Week. Mr. Stuart McKenney, prolific Australian comic book illustrator, is my guest. Thank you for a little bit of your time. It's the end of day 1 of Supernova. What's it like to get back to conventions?
Absolutely fantastic. It's just exciting. It's been so touch and go with COVID and everything, the world shutting down. It's just so exciting that it's happening again. It's great to be back.
And it was a year off for you. I've been chatting with your lovely wife off air about what it's been like for you to be off for a year out of these conventions. You work from home, even working stopped for you for a little while as well. 2020, how did you survive?
It was tough. I mean, it was scary. It was a lot of the comic book industry at the beginning actually shut down quite a bit because the print, they didn't actually have people or weren't able to go in and print at the printers, so there was not a lot of titles that didn't come out, so it was kind of scary. But yeah, just persevere and get through, and yeah, and it's good that it's finally over, and there's a lot more books coming out now, and it's exciting. Yeah.
Ray, welcome back, my friend. How is life, and how has the last year been, especially?
Well, depends on how far back you go in the last year, Matt. So
Yes.
I think we've all taken a hit from, COVID and the pandemic. And a lot of people lost a lot of time, us included. But we came back in October. We put together a new format for people to visit, and that worked out well. And we started up again in January. So studio's going well. Just hopefully bigger and better things on the horizon.
That heinous blog that is focusing too much on a certain individual not making a fan film. Carlos, let's start in the last few weeks. We heard from Sean O'Halloran, whose son Hayden allegedly committed the heinous crime. It's a famous word of his. It's a lucky word. Hayden walked on the vending floor wearing a duck mask. What did you make of that at Vegas?
So yeah, Hayden surprised us all with that, not just Alec. But he's an extraordinary 10-year-old kid with strong opinions of his own, and felt like he needed to make a statement, which he did with the duck mask, and probably very effectively, I guess. But yeah, it was a surprise to us all.
Do you think that Alec's reaction to that was warranted?
Are grumpy old men allowed to be grumpy old men? I guess. But to turn it into a thing where he starts comparing him to the Hitler Youth, I think is pretty out of the ballpark, weird. And particularly given the fact that he wasn't supposed to be live streaming in that facility at all, as all vendors are agreed to that. All people who attended STLV agreed to that when they buy their tickets, that no live streaming is allowed from within the convention. And he has with many other rules, has flouted that, and then got mad at a 10-year-old who was interrupting something he wasn't supposed to be doing in the first place.
Rob, let's start off in the very beginning for you, getting started in a career in film and television. Where did it all begin for you?
Well, I wanted to make movies since I was a little kid, and I was lucky. I started working in the home video industry when I was 13 years old. So back in 1980. And I went to college and was studying film in college at the Evergreen State College in Washington State. Then I transferred to USC and I studied film there. And right after I got out of college, my first job was I was the art department assistant on Leatherface, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3. And this was it was the greatest job I ever had. Viggo Mortensen was in it, Aragorn himself, Ken Foray, who starred as Peter in Dawn of the Dead, one of my favorite horror films of all time. He was in the movie. And then I spent the 90s kind of jumping around doing all kinds of things. I worked for Full Moon, and I started editing. I specialized editing features for first-time directors and did post-supervision. I read screenplays for a living. I also worked at Warner Brothers for 2 years at the studio. I worked for the senior vice president of physical production, Bill Young, for a while. And then I moved over and worked on movies like Free Willy for there. And so my goal was always to make films. And then I was able to finally write and direct my first movie, and it came out in 1999, Free Enterprise. It starred William Shatner. And then throughout I did a lot of things. Like I worked on the Star Trek Experience as an editor, and I just had a lot of fun. I've never had a lot of great commercial success, but I was able to do things like I was a co-producer on the Agent Cody Banks movies. I actually purchased those scripts and we sold those to the studio. And then I've continued to produce films. And now I have a movie in theaters now that I produced and edited, Tango Shalom, that I also actually started while working at Ares Studios when I couldn't make Axanar.
Larry, this awesome premiere, I'm calling it the best one of the Kurtzman area. What's your thoughts?
Well, I enjoyed Picard. I enjoyed Lower Decks too. But no, this was a different dimension. And as I've been preaching for the last year, people say animated. Now you can see how different Lower Decks was from the animated series in the 70s, but also how different but family. It's just different tastes in the buffet here, and how different Prodigy is, and what they're aiming for. And we all knew kids show, but as I'm learning in the lingo speak now, it's a co-viewing show. They really want to have it be for parents and kids, or grandparents and kids, or whatever.
And
Yeah,
that's
don't
an
be fooled into thinking it's just for 7 to 10-year-olds, right?
Nick, welcome back for the second time this year. Just incredible how the year has gone. Now, you've given me an incredible sneak peek at The Pursuit of a Dream, your next Star Trek fan film. It's an awesome one, mate. A real development piece for your character. Can you give us a teaser for it?
Yeah, to put it in very simple terms, this is kind of Hunter's Groundhog Day in some ways. The basic premise is, Hunter kind of joined Starfleet and went out to the stars because he was curious about what's out there, and mysteries and legends kind of intrigued him. And Pursuit of a Dream is basically this one particular legend that Hunter's always kind of obsessed about, and how he keeps revisiting it throughout the years. And it takes place over about 20, 25 years of his career, which is interesting and involves quite a few different costume changes.
It is just an incredible one. Now, I know you were a little resistant to a story focused on you and Hunter, obviously, specifically. So where did the idea come from, and why were you so hesitant?
Mainly, the idea basically came from the fact that Sam Cockings, who, is very well known for Trek Yards and basically is the visual effects guru for probably 90% of the fan films out there, Star Trek fan films out there anyway. And is a very talented and very kind of energetic guy. I have no idea where he gets all his energy. Anyway, we've been working together. I've gone down to Bedford and worked on some of his Trek shots, actually quite a few now. And we've had a good time working together. And he's been contributing effects to Intrepid for, a few years now. And Sam's great. I have no idea where he gets all his energy. It's kind of endless. And when you start having a conversation with him, I mean, he'll talk for like hours about a story idea he's got or a script idea that he's working on. And I mean, it's almost nonstop. So it's like, I have no idea where he gets the energy. I run out of steam after a while. Anyway, Sam had, on a couple of occasions, suggested coming up and directing an episode of Intrepid. He said he would like to do something like that. And I thought, you know what, we've built up a good working relationship and it would be really nice to be able to do that. So we had a gap in our schedule back in, I think it was August. We had like about a 36-hour window.
My most humblest of thanks to each and every guest who beamed in across the year to discuss their fan film, their career, their latest thing, or even just as a subject they're passionate about. It's been a thrill to get to know so many new people and catch up with old friends as well. They're all doing amazing work and being genuinely awesome people. I cannot wait for 2022's season of A Trekzone Conversation. This countdown is, of course, by no means all that I've done this year. Catch the Trekzone Conversation playlist to watch them all, and I'll see you for another edition of A Trekzone podcast real soon.